Well, folks, it is that time. The Six Nations is back. We have some squads, we've got some stats, some predictions. We're going to go through match number one. France up against Wales, which on paper is set to be a pretty lopsided affair, with France massive favourites for this one. But Fabien Galthié is certainly not taking anything for granted. He spoke with much respect about this experienced Welsh side in his press conference. You guys can let us know your thoughts. If you think Wales, ranked 11 in the world, currently on a horrendous losing run, can buck this trend, or do you think it's going to go like all the predictions and France will put on a big scoreline? France have named a squad which is familiar in terms of the return of their 19 combo, Antoine Dupont and Romain Ntamack. We haven't seen them play together at international level for quite some time, but it is a welcome return to those guys. Dupont's return to the Six Nations is also a welcome one. France certainly looked a better team at the end of last year, when he was back from the Olympics, than at the start of the year, where there was maybe a little bit of a Rugby World Cup hangover. But let's start with the front row first. They've gone with Gros, Mauvaka and Atonio, which is the same front row which played in France's last game in November, back up against Argentina. So there's no huge change there. There is a slight surprise with Roumat being named in the second row alongside Meafou, because he is usually a back rower, is Roumat. But if you looked at the depth chart video we did for France for last year, I'll put a link somewhere, Roumat did play not a lot of game time in the second row, but some game time. He didn't start in the second row, but he did sometimes come off the bench and take the place of Thibaut Flament. Flament is injured for this one, so that's what sees Roumat's promotion to a starting role in, as I said, a kind of less familiar second row spot. Cros, Boudehent and Alldritt is the back row. I think that's a pretty good looking back row. Maybe there's an opportunity for the Welsh to try and steal some French line-out ball, but Cros is an absolute tackling machine. Boudehent, every time I've seen him play for France in recent times, and also for his club, has been just very physical, a hard man to stop. And then Alldritt, with his work rate, will just carry and carry and carry, tackle and tackle and tackle. So that is the French forward pack. It is very big, and I think will look to get on top, especially when you consider they've picked 6 forwards on the bench. It does seem to be one where Galthié wants this French pack to grind the Welsh guys throughout the game, and then maybe look to open them up come full time. I mentioned Dupont and Ntamack at 9 and 10. That sees Thomas Ramos, who played a lot of 10 for France last year, back to his more familiar spot at fullback. His versatility will be helpful with only 2 backs on the bench, but remember, France also used Dupont in the number 10 role a little bit towards the end of a few games last year, so also could potentially shift roles if Grégory comes on and Ntamack goes off. The midfield was also an interesting one with the injury to Dante and to Ficou. Moefana, I think, was always going to play 12, and sure enough, he continues on in the role of 12. It was a question, maybe, will they go with his Bordeaux midfield partner, Deporter? No, he was released to his club a week ago, so it is the Toulouse man, Barassi, who will get the run at 13. Galthié kind of talked a little bit about him in the press conference, saying he's been a bit unlucky with injuries, but this is a good chance for him to step up with Ficou out. And also Attissogbe gets a chance on the right wing with the injury to Damien Penaud, who is going to be back. But it's a good chance for him because Penaud, with those 6 tries he scored for his club the other day, was certainly looking like the form man. The left wing is that exciting guy, Louis Bielle-Biarrey. He will certainly be one of the favourites for top try scorer of the Six Nations this year. His ability to chase kickball with his pure pace is quite unbelievable. The bench, Marchand, Baye and Colombe. It's great to see Baye back in French colours. He's another guy who's missed out with injury for quite some time. There was a little bit of controversy about 2 of the bench selections in Orado and Jegu, but Fabien Galthié basically said in the press conference he didn't want to talk about that. He said he wanted to focus on the match. I know there will always be, probably for quite some time, social media feedback every time those guys are picked, but they are two of the forwards on the bench. There's another guy in Kia as well, so it is just the two backs in Ligarek and Gaetan. So some of these guys are very flexible. Moefana can play multiple positions. Ramos can play multiple positions. Like I mentioned, Dupont can move around, so they do have some flexibility with the guys they have chosen. For the Welsh squad, it is more experienced than perhaps we saw much in 2024 when the squad was super young. You got Liam Williams is back. You've got Josh Adams is back. It's a shame Taulupe Faletau, he withdrew himself from selection, basically saying he's not quite ready. But yeah, the squad looks a little bit more experienced than it has done in some recent times. The front row of Gareth Thomas, Evan Lloyd and Henry Thomas is all new from the squad which faced South Africa back in November. It's a first start for Evan Lloyd, so a lot of pressure on that young man. He has had his test caps before, but never from the starting role. He's only had a few recent starts for Cardiff, so hopefully he'll be able to build a bit of momentum. Likewise, Henry Thomas, although being a veteran, it is still his first start for Wales as well. They will need to be performing from minute number 1 against this big French pack. If the French are able to squeeze the Welsh, get penalties out of them, it could be a long day at the office. So parity at set piece, you think, will be very important. Will Rowlands and Daft Jenkins are the locks. Good to have Jenkins back. He's another one who missed a fair bit of game time at the end of last year with injury. And in the back row, Aaron Wainwright is back. That's a bit of good news. Although, as I said, Faletau's injury is unfortunate. Jack Morgan and James Botham will certainly provide a lot of tackling, and Jack Morgan will be the captain of the side. He will likely be leading from the front, and if he's not the top tackler of the game, it might be a little bit surprising. He's also a big threat at the breakdown. 9-10 combo of Thomas Williams and Ben Thomas is an interesting one. They have not decided to chuck Dan Edwards into the deep end, the uncapped Ospreys 10, although he is on the bench for this one. So Ben Thomas shifts from his last Welsh appearance at 12 into the number 10 role, so a little bit of pressure on him there. And Thomas Williams seems to be one of the form guys playing for Gloucester, so hopefully he can replicate some of that at international level. And then an experienced midfield of Owen Watkin and Nick Tompkins. Nick Tompkins usually a 12, but he has played rugby at test level and for his club at 13 before. I know he's not really a fan favourite of recent times, but Gats really highlighted the fact that he wanted to go for experience in many areas. He may have even gone for Sam Parry, but it sounds like he had a tight hamstring from what Gats said in the press conference, hence Evan Lloyd's start at hooker. But yeah, Watkin and Tompkins, all new midfield as well. So many of these areas are all new front row, all new back three, all new midfield compared to that South Africa game. It's not consistency, but as I said, it is more experience. Josh Adams being back on the left wing. Tom Rogers gets to return to the Welsh squad on the right wing. And then Liam Williams, very experienced guy to have at fullback. So that's the starting 15. Elliot D, Nicky Smith and Kieran Asarati are your 3 front row replacements. Freddie Thomas and Tommy Reffel, your 2 forward replacements. Reffel is unfortunate to be on the bench because he is a proper turnover and tackle threat, but with Jack Morgan captaining the side, kind of relegates Reffel to that bench role. And then Rodri Williams, Dan Edwards and Blair Murray are your 3 back. So it is a 5-3 split for Wales. You might have thought, especially seeing as the French named their team first, this is a game where you go 6-2. But I guess Gats is not looking to fight fire with fire. He may go with that old nugget of trying to tire the French pack out if you can keep the game moving quickly and move them around. But quite a few teams tried that last year and it didn't work out all that well. Stats-wise, Gats mentioned in his press conference that France offload a lot and that he was looking to shut down their offloading game. Well, is he right? Do they offload a lot? Yes. They're kind of close to 10 offloads a game last year, which is very similar numbers to New Zealand. Slightly higher than Ireland, who are around 7. The Scots are around 8. So France do like to offload the ball a lot, whereas Wales last year were down at about 4. Part of that's not having that much possession, but France are also not a real possession-based team. They're quite happy to live without the ball. But yes, France do love to offload a lot. So shutting down that one is going to be easier said than done. Their defence, though, last year did seem a little bit fragile. You feel like it'll be a big work on for France in 2025 if they are going to shore things up. Like, they conceded more tries, more clean breaks than they did in 2023, for example. Now, they sure looked better than a lot of other sides on defence, but by their own standards, comparing France with France, it was not as slick as we have seen it in 2024 as we have seen it in the past, and certainly a way down in terms of like tries conceded from a side like South Africa or Ireland, who were pretty kind of ironclad on defence in that regard. For Wales, the attack really needs to click. It's taken a bit of a drop in recent years. I mean, the 2024 Welsh side was averaging 3, maybe 4 clean breaks a game, whereas only a few years before that year they won the Six Nations under Wayne Pivac. It was 7. So the ability to get guys into space, be a genuine attacking threat on the front foot, seems to have gone a little bit. But as I said, it is a young Welsh side that he picked in 2024, so that was maybe not too surprising. And they also were quite slow starters last year. They were nilled many times in the opening 20 minutes, and I don't think Wales kept a clean sheet the first 20 minutes in any of their games last year. They were always conceding points in the first 20. You feel like against France away from home, you need to be on the ball fast. You can't be chasing the game against this French side. They need to be defensively very sound. Easier said than done, but hopefully for Wales they can at least make it a bit competitive. They have struggled against France in recent years. If we're looking at the last 5 games, it is 5-0. All these wins are French wins. Even that year when they won the Six Nations under Pivac, Wales still lost to France that year. There's some close ones, 32-30, 13-9. There's also some not close ones in recent years, 45-24 last year, 41-28 the year before. So the average score across the last 5 games, 34-22. The last Welsh win over France goes back to 2019's Rugby World Cup, and the last Welsh win over France in the Six Nations is also back in 2019. George North scored a double to win it 24-19. France are the favourites for this one. If you're looking at the bookies, they have got them by a whopping 27 points, although I don't know that France are traditionally the quickest starters in the Six Nations. They tend to have a little bit of a warming up period. Just look at last year. Home against Ireland, they got walloped. Remember, they used to start their Six Nations campaigns against Italy and were often a little bit slow out of the blocks. So maybe there's an inkling of hope for Wales. The Rugby Forecast algorithm says it's a little bit more conservative, saying France by 14 points. So either way, if you're looking at the conservative or the kind of open-ended picks, it's France. France by at least kind of 2 tries or more. It is on at the start of France. It's a Friday game, late kickoff for you guys in Europe, South Africa, that kind of time zone. It's 9:15 local time, which is perfect for those of us here in New Zealand because that'll make it 9:15 in the morning. So the Friday game in Europe, which is a Saturday game here in New Zealand, is much better timing than the Saturday games in Europe, which are horrendous times on Sunday morning for those of us in NZ. But yeah, if you're a Kiwi fan, you might want to tune in to see how France go. There is a Kiwi connection with Paul Williams being the ref. We will see how he goes. There's been a little bit of controversy last week with a couple of the Kiwi refs refereeing European club games to warm up for the Six Nations, maybe not putting in performances that the local coaches appreciated. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. If you want to see me and Tony from Distracted Sports break down the Six Nations preview in our latest podcast, which was the first podcast for us for 2 Cents Gets Distracted in 2025, I'll check a link up there. That one's on Tony's channel. See who Tony and I think are favourites for the Six Nations. But yes, you guys let us know your thoughts. Six Nations is back. It's a good time. Subscribe to this channel if you want more Six Nations content, because you can bet there'll be a bundle. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.